Hello, everyone. I'm Trish Connor Cato. Welcome to Microsoft Power Automate. This video is for users who are looking to gain skills in using efficiency features to automate day-to-day work tasks and activities. Users can be beginning level or those who have some experience but want to gain more. Power Automate uses workflow processes to free up your time from performing manual tasks. We'll move on to integrating Power Automate with Microsoft Forms, Planner, Power Apps, and Teams. Lastly, we will monitor flow statistics and metrics. If you're enjoying these videos, please like and subscribe. If you have any questions you want answered by one of our instructors, please join our off-site community. The link is in the description as well. As always, if this course has exercise files, you'll find them in the video description below. Our next lesson is about further integration with Power Automate. We've already seen the integration and the accessibility to the app from SharePoint and OneDrive, and we've used Outlook as a connector a couple of times in the examples that we've already performed. Other apps, Microsoft apps, that it integrates really well with are Forms, Planner, Teams, and Power Apps. And in this lesson, we're going to do some exercises where we utilize those particular apps. All of these apps are normally included in your Office 365 suite of applications, especially for business. So just to drill down on some that we're going to be using in this upcoming lesson, it's going to be Forms. Microsoft Forms can be used to create surveys, polls, and quizzes. And no worries if you've never used Forms before. I will guide you through everything we need to do to create our little survey. Then we're going to use Microsoft Planner to create plans, assign tasks, chat about tasks. And you can also use it to see charts of your team's progress. Now, we're actually going to create a plan. We're not going to assign tasks. We're going to do just a slim plan and go over the different views in Planner. But it's another fairly easy to use application. And then there's Teams, which since the pandemic, more people know and either love or hate. But it's the collaboration app that comes with Microsoft, helps your team stay organized, have conversations, share files, and have meetings all within the same app. We're also going to delve into Power Apps just a little bit. Now, that one's a little bit more complicated. It's actually a service for building and using custom business apps that connect to your data and work across the web and mobile. So we're going to be using Forms, Planner, Teams, and Power Apps, along with Power Automate in the upcoming exercises. We're going to use the app launcher, what I fondly refer to as the waffle again, to access Microsoft Forms. So go ahead and click the waffle. Once you locate Forms in your list, you're going to hover over it and open the context menu on its right side so that you can launch it in a new tab. Go ahead and launch Forms now. So once you're in Forms, I just want to point out that you have a little bit of a menu on the left where you go to Home, which is where we are, right? And or you have a Create plus sign button that you can use. Everything else on that menu is taking you to another Microsoft application. On the upper half of the screen, you have the New Form button, and it has a drop down, so if you were doing a new quiz, you would select that. You are on the recent area, so I have a technology survey. That's the most recent thing that I worked on in Forms, and it's showing there in recent. It's letting me know the name of it. I'm the owner of it, and I had 7 responses to it. Each card, those are referred to as cards or tiles, has a more options ellipsis on it where you can open it in your browser, that actual form. You can copy, move it, add it to pinned. So, there's only so much space to show you recent cards or tiles. So at some point, they will start falling off of the recent list. If you want to have access to it all the time, you can add it to your pinned list. And your other option there is remove from list. If you add something to pinned, it will stay there until you unpin it. So those are your options with that. Again, anything that you pin will stay there for easy access. And then you have another category of forms that were shared with you, if any. You can also filter the list from over in the upper right corner. If you're looking for a form that you haven't accessed in a while, you have the All My Forms link that will take you to all of your forms. And on the bottom half of the screen, which I have mine blocked for privacy, you have any groups that you're a member of. And for each group, it shows you the total number of forms in that group. We're going to build a survey form asking just a few questions about Power Automate. And what's going to end up happening is we're going to attach that to an automated cloud flow so that it knows how to handle and what to do with the responses. Right now, we're focused on building the form. So go ahead and click your new form button. And you should be on an untitled form screen. So let's talk about the screen. I have a little bit of a title bar. It's saying it's untitled form. It's saved, not actually saved yet, right? We haven't done anything. And it tells you you're in forms and you can get back to the Office waffle if necessary. The other thing is you have this little menu bar here where you can preview the form once you're done with it, right? You can apply a theme, a coloration to it. You can share it, and you have more form settings that you can get to. So again, this course is more about Power Automate to forms, but you'll be able to pick up a few tips and tricks along the way. We have two tabs in here. You're currently on the Questions tab. You also have a Responses tab. If you hover over the Responses tab, it will tell you that you've received 0 responses, which is appropriate because we haven't created the form or responded to it yet. Once you create your form and you have it distributed and you're getting responses, you can come back into Forms, access your form, go to the Responses tab to see your responses. And you'll see that in just a little while. For right now, we need to give this form a title. So click right where it says Untitled Form, and you're in a text box, and we're going to name the form Power Automate Survey. Go ahead and type that in. The description field is optional, and we decide not to put in a description. And now when we click the Add New button, it gives us, if you look at this, it calls this the type of question. It's actually the type of answer. So our first question is going to require a yes or no response. So it's going to be a choice question. You also have text where the person taking the survey can freeform type in what they like. You have rating and different symbols that you can use for the ratings, like stars and numbers. If your question requires a date as a response, you can choose date, and then it gives that little mini calendar when they go to respond. And you have some other question types, ranking, Likert scale, so on and so forth, that you can access. I'm going to just collapse that. We're going to click on choice. And the first question that we're going to put in this survey is, would using Power Automate be of benefit to you in your position? Go ahead and type that in, and I will do it as well. And so now underneath that, it gives me two options for responses. Again, it's a choice. I can add other options if I need more than two. I can add an other option. You know how sometimes you don't give the right answer choice for them, so they can choose other. So I'm going to click where it says option one, and it selects that text, and I'm going to type yes. And now when I click option two, you'll notice underneath option two, it gives me the preset of no. Once I typed yes, it said, well, maybe their other choice is going to be no. So I'm going to just click on that preset no, so I don't have to type it. Now, there are other things about that question that you can address. Do you want to allow multiple answers? Well, in this case, I don't want somebody to answer yes and no, so I'm not going to enable that. I'm not going to make the response required either. All right. And these are options and choices that you can make, whether it's a survey or for whatever reason, a poll or whatever it is you're going to do. You also have more settings for the question to the right of required, where you can shuffle the responses. You can make the responses a drop down instead of the option buttons that they have in front of them. You can do a subtitle. You can add branching, all kinds of different things. We're cool with our question and our two answer choices, which, by the way, if you needed to delete something, you could. You can delete an answer choice. You can also delete your question. We're going to go down and click on Add New so we can add our second question. Our second question is going to be a rating question. So go ahead and click on Rating. And we have the stars that are showing. If you scroll down before we even put the question in, it shows that we have 5 levels and the symbol is a star. Well, we're going to want it to be 5 levels, but we want the symbol. So do the drop down next to star and make the symbol a number. So our question, the second question, is going to be, how would you rate the ease of use of Power Automate? And then in parentheses, we're going to put 1 equals very hard, semicolon, 5 equals very easy. So I'm going to get started typing this in. So how would you rate the ease of use of Power Automate? In parentheses, 1 equals very hard, semicolon, 5 equals very easy. And we're not going to make that question required either. Go ahead and click Add New so we get set up for our third question. We're only doing 4, so we're almost done. And the third question, if you rated the ease of use as very hard, please input some comments, including specifics. So we're going to make this a text question, and it's only for those people, and we'll put at the end of it, if you used another rating, you can skip this question. So here we go. If you rated the ease of use as very hard, please input some comments, including specifics. In parentheses, I'll put, if you used another rating, please skip. So we have the free-form text field where their answer can be entered. We don't need to make it a really long answer. We're not going to make it required. We're going to go ahead and click Add New for our last question. And the last question is going to be a choice. What is your experience level with Power Automate? So I'm going to select choice, type in the question. What is your experience level with Power Automate? I'm going to click in option 1 and I'm going to type beginner. And notice now under option 2, it gives me intermediate and advanced, and those are the choices that I want. So I'm going to click on option 2 and do intermediate. And then I'm going to click the add option button. And for option 3, I'm going to put the preset of advanced. So it assists where it can. And that's the last question that we wanted to have on this Power Automate survey. So we're really kind of done with it. And notice if you look, I'm just going to scroll back up to the top. We're not going to click add new again. But if you look at the top, it still says saved. If we want to look at what it will look like, go ahead and click preview. So this is what it's showing in preview mode. This is what the person who's taking the survey will see. And it lets them know when you submit this form, the owner will see your name and email address. This one is designed for the computer. I'm looking at it in the computer view. There's also a mobile view up there so you can see what it looked like on a mobile device. So you get to sample what it looks like before you distribute it to make sure you have everything okay. In the upper left corner, I'm going to choose the back button to get out of that preview. And if you want to take a look at themes, you can make it look all fancy and everything by applying a theme to it. I'm not going to do any of that. What I'd like to do is just go back. So you can use your back button on the internet. You can go back to your form's home screen. It can be a bit disconcerting when you're first working with forms. Once you create a form and you come back to the home screen, you're not seeing the form you created under recent. And that's because the form has not been utilized. It's just been created. So this is where you can use the All My Forms link, and it will take you to show you all of the forms that you have. So now we can see our Power Automate survey form. We know that it's in the system, and we'll circle back around to it in a little while. We're going to have to test it out once we create our automated cloud flow. So go ahead and navigate back over to your Power Automate window. In Power Automate, you can go over to the menu and select Create, so you get back on that screen. And we're going to create an automated cloud flow that every time someone responds to our Power Automate survey, it will send an email containing information to us. So we're going to go ahead and click on Automated Cloud Flow tile. And we're going to call this Power Automate Survey Results. And it already has triggers, the trigger that we're going to use from Microsoft Forms right there, when a new response is submitted. Now, if that trigger is not seeing where you can find it easily, you can click in the search box, type in forms, and then you'll see the forms triggers. We're going to select when a new response is submitted, and then go ahead and click your Create button at the bottom. So the first step when a new response is submitted requires a form ID. You're going to use the drop-down arrow and select the Power Automate survey form. Once you have that populated, we're going to click on a new step. So now we need more form steps. Once a new response is submitted, we need it to gather the responses by response ID. In other words, for every respondent, we will get a separate email. So what we're going to do here in the search box, we're going to type in forms. So we get more form operations. And the one that we want, the action that we want, is get response details. So go ahead and select that. Again, you have to do the drop down and select the name of your form. And when you click in the response ID box, your dynamic content panel will open on the right, and you're going to just click response ID. It's the unique identifier of the response. So every respondee has a different identifier. Go ahead and select that. So when a new response is submitted from our Power Automate survey, Forms is going to gather the response details. And we need to add one more step. So go ahead and click your new step button. And this time we're going to type Outlook in the search box. And I'm going to select Office 365 Outlook to see all of the actions. So there's quite a few different send an email actions. If you're not seeing send an email V2 on your list, you can type send an email in search. You can start typing it, and just the send an email options will show up. The one that we want is send an email V2. So we're going to select that. Now in the to box, which is required, you're going to put in your email address and click in the subject box, another required field. So from dynamic content, we're going to scroll down and we're going to put response ID as the subject. So the respondent's specific ID. And then you're going to click in the body box, and we're basically using dynamic content to put in all of the questions that are there. So they're in order with using Power Automate, and then what is your experience? How would you rate the ease? If you rated the ease, right? That's what we're going to put in there. And then we're going to just go ahead and click Save. So we get our standard message at the top in the green band. We're going to close the band. And we're going to click on the test button in the upper right corner. We're going to click on the manually radio button, or option button rather. And then we're going to click test. So we get that information at the top. To see it work now, submit a new response to the selected form. So what I'm going to have you do is switch over to your forms screen. In order to test our flow, we're going to respond to our survey 3 times. Go ahead and click your Power Automate survey. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to the Responses tab. And you'll see all of these metrics. We have 0 responses, so on and so forth. And then if we put it in preview mode, go ahead and select your preview button. We can respond to our own survey. So again, it's showing it in computer view. So if someone's taking the survey on the computer, this is what they will be seeing. It greets them by name based on their login. So the first one we'll go through together. I'll show you how this works, right? So I'm going to say yes to the first question, and I'm going to rate it as very easy. And I'm going to skip the third question, and I'm going to say my experience level is advanced. And I'm going to submit my response. So as soon as I submit that response, it gives me a link to submit another response. I'd like you to submit 2 more responses. Mix up the answers that you're using. Once you've submitted your third response, use the back button at the top. And you'll see that the metrics are now populated, right? If you wanted to, you could view the results. You can open in Excel. On the Responses tab, it tells you that there are 3 responses. And if we wanted to, you can see per question, right? There's a little chart there. I had 2 yeses and 1 no for the first question. my average, how I rated the ease of use, so on and so forth. It's showing my response when I put my text in. And there's my pie chart. I selected all 3 levels of experience just to kind of mix it up a little bit. But what we're going to do now is we're going to test to see if it worked. So what I'd like you to do is switch over to your Outlook. So you'll see one of the 3 emails I received, right? And it's giving me the answers. I just have the privacy shield blocking my email address. But yes, to the first question, would using Power Automate be a benefit to you in your position? The second one is my experience level, which is intermediate. And the third one, I gave a 3 as a rating for the ease of use. So that's kind of how it puts it in the email to me. And again, the subject of it is the response ID, which in my case, it's 9. You guys probably have less responses. I'd been doing some other things beforehand. So they're usually in order 1, 2, and 3. I've used the Microsoft Waffle to open up Microsoft Planner in its own tab. And when you access Planner, it brings you into the Planner Hub. In my case, it's absolutely empty. So what we're going to do in here is we're going to create a plan. Let's click on the New Plan button over on the left. And we're going to name this plan Power Automate Surveys. Now, if we needed to, we could add the plan to an existing Microsoft 365 group. We're not going to be doing that. We have 2 privacy options, public and private. Sometimes I'll make a plan private while I'm working on it and developing it, and then I may switch it to public when I want everybody else in the organization to be able to view it and use it. And then you have an options drop-down, which gives you the ability to put in a description for new members of a group. We're going to go ahead and just click on Create Plan. So let's take a look at the left side of the screen first. We can collapse this left navigation pane if we want to. You'll also hear it referred to as a menu, and we can expand it by using the 3 lines. And now we have our Power Automate Surveys plan, which is active. It also shows up under Recent, which is different than when you're working in Microsoft Forms. So we have what are known as buckets. They give you one bucket called To Do, and you can add more buckets as we will throughout this exercise. We'll also explore some more of the interface while we're working in here. But for right now, we want to add a task. So I'm going to click that Add Task button, and it brings up a pop-up where I can enter the task name, set a due date, and assign it. So the first task is called Review/Compile Survey Results. I'm going to select Set a Due Date, and I'm going to just go to the following Friday, whenever that is, as long as it's not a holiday. And then I'm going to click on Assign, and I'm going to assign it to myself. And I can kind of click away from it so it collapses again. Now, this is the tricky wicket with this one. You have to click the Add Task in green in order for that task to be actually added to the plan. We have another pop-up right above it where we can enter another task name. And the second task is going to be Send Recommendations to Stakeholders. So I'm going to just type that in. And for this one, I'm going to set a due date of like maybe 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks out. So I'm just picking a date 2.5 weeks out on a Friday. And I'm not going to assign that task at this point. I'm going to click the green Add Task. We have one more task that we're going to enter. I'm keeping the plan very simple here. And the third task is going to be Initiate Changes Kickoff. And I'm going to set that due date well after the holidays. So I'm going to go to January of the following year and set it like 3 weeks in. The 21st will do in my example. And again, depending on when you're watching this video, you would be choosing your own dates here. I'm going to assign Initiate Changes Kickoff to myself. So we have 2 assigned tasks, and then I'm going to add tasks, the green button. So 2 assigned and 1 that's not assigned. So these are all in the to-do bucket. No work has started on these tasks yet. We're just creating the plan right now. I mentioned that you can add other buckets. So click where it says Add New Bucket, and it gives you the ability to name the bucket, and we're going to call it In Progress. And you just have to click away from it. And then we're going to click Add New Bucket again, and we're going to name this one Completed. And click away from it. So my In Progress bucket is the one that we're working in right now. I'm just going to go up, so I'm not seeing my tasks right now, but I can get back to them. And sometimes it does this, sometimes it doesn't. You just got to click around sometime. If you're thinking, well, why don't you click My Tasks over here? It will only show me the tasks that are assigned to me. So I'm not seeing all of my tasks there. I'm just going back to my hub and clicking on the Power Automate Surveys, and then it repopulates. That happens occasionally. So you can always get back to your full list by accessing the hub if necessary. So a few other things you can do here with your task. I'm hovering over the Review Compile Survey Results task, and notice it has a More Options ellipsis button where I can color code my task by giving it a label. So I'm going to hover over labels, and I'm going to choose bronze. You can choose whatever color you want. I'm choosing bronze, and I'm going to do the same thing for Initiate Changes Kickoff tasks because those 2 are assigned to me, so I want them to have the same color label. You don't have to have a label on your task. For Review Compile Survey Results, if I go back to More Options, I can assign the task, copy a link to it, move it, or delete the task from that menu. The other thing I can do is I can just simply click on the task. So I clicked on Review Compile Survey Results, and it opens up a more detailed window, right? So it's showing my label color. It's in the to-do bucket right now. The progress is not started. It has a medium priority. Start date is set to start anytime. It captured my due date. I don't have any notes. I don't need to add an item for a checklist or attachments or comments, that kind of thing. But in here, what I like to do is change the progress from not started to in progress. And then in the upper right-hand corner, I'm going to go ahead and close that box. So you'll notice now on the card or tile, whichever you want to call it, it has the in progress icon, which I'm pointing to on my screen right now. Since I've made it in progress, I'm going to move it to the in progress bucket. So I'm going to just click and hold and drag and drop it into the appropriate bucket. So this is Planner, and I said we'll revisit the left nav in a minute, but let's go over there and click on My Task, and you'll just see if you're working in Planner and you just want to see the tasks that have been assigned to you, you can see it. And it will show in the proper buckets once you set those up. And I'm going to go back to my Planner hub and back to my Power Automate survey. Now we're looking at a view that's called board view. There's another view here. We're going to go to charts. So when you go to the charts view, it's showing you the status. There's 3 tasks left, right? 2 are not started, 1 is in progress, 0 late, 0 completed. Then it's showing a column chart of the buckets. So I have 2 tasks in the to-do bucket and 1 task in progress, nothing in completed. It shows your task list over on the right side in their separate buckets. So there's your to-do bucket, there's your in progress bucket, and your completed bucket. And if you scroll down on the main screen, you'll see priority is even gauged. By default, they're all assigned, all tasks are assigned a medium priority. So you're seeing that assignment there. And then you're seeing members. So I have unassigned and I have myself in here. And when I hover over the blue bar, it tells me I have 1 in progress. And I have in the gray bar 1 that is not started that has been assigned to me. And then you have a schedule tab you can go to, which is a calendar view. And this will capture your dates. So I put the review and compiling the survey results for the coming Friday. I went 2.5 weeks out with sending recommendations to the stakeholders. And if I navigate to January of next year, I will see that I have the last task set to be completed on January 21st. You also have your more options up there. So if I go to more options to the right of schedule, I can see that I can have a conversation, I can add members, files, get to my notebook, go to different sites, add to favorites, copy the plan, export it to Excel, get into plan settings, add it to an Outlook calendar. And again, this is not a planner course, but you get the gist of how this could be a cool and handy tool to use, especially since you can use it in conjunction with Power Automate. Now, the other thing I can do is right up at the top where it says the name of it, I can click there. And that's another way of getting into the plan settings. If I want my plan to look fancier, I can assign it a background coloration. Some of these are pretty crazy, but they only show around the edge of it in this view anyway. So you have the ability to do that. And you can go to your group tab, and if there's a group description that you want to add at this point or change your privacy level, you can do it from there. And then there's a notifications tab where you can send an email to a group if you have this in a group, right, when a task is assigned or completed. And you can have Planner send you notifications when someone assigns a task to you or a task that is assigned to you is late, due today, or due in the next 7 days. And that would be email only. You can get the notification when someone assigns a task to you by email or mobile push. And if I go back to the General tab at the top, at the bottom of the General tab, and I believe the Group tab, yeah, it's not on notifications, you can delete a group from the bottom of the Group tab, or from the General tab, you can delete this plan if it's ever necessary to come in and delete a plan. I'm going to just close plan settings. We have our plan set up. So far, so good. So at this point, what I'd like us to do is go to Power Automate and be on the Create screen when you get over there. Now we're ready to create our flow. It's going to be another automated cloud flow, so go ahead and select that tile. And we're going to name it Planner Tasks for Survey. Planner Tasks for Survey. And so our trigger is when a new task is assigned to us in Planner. So I'm going to type Planner in the Choose Your Flows trigger box. So when a new task is created, when a task is completed, or when a task is assigned to me. And the last one is the one we want. So I'm going to go ahead and select that option button and click on Create at the bottom. So, as usual, it comes up with when a task is assigned to me, the first trigger that we selected. And for this particular trigger, it lets us know that it doesn't need any additional information. So we're going to go ahead and click on the New Step button. So in your search box, type Outlook, and we're going to select Outlook Tasks. Every time a task is assigned to me in Planner, I want it put on my Outlook task list. So what I'm going to do is we're in Outlook Tasks. We have all the actions here. I'm going to select Create a Task V2. So the subject is the only required field here. When you click in the subject, your dynamic content comes up and you're going to click on title. We want the title of the task to be the subject in Outlook. And then you can pick a task folder. So I'm going to just use my default task folder. I'm going to click in the due date field and I want to select, let's see if we have it. We have the start date time, reminder date time. We should have a due date time here, the date time the task is due. So we don't just have the date by itself. So we're going to select due date time. And I think that the time portion is not going to show. So it says here in start date for the time, the time portion will be ignored. So hopefully it'll just give us the due date there. And I'm not going to put in a reminder date. Don't know the date that the work is going to start on it. Didn't put that in. Don't have to put anything else in here. If we wanted to, we could put something in the body content. Why don't we go there and let's just put in the ID of the user who assigned the task to you. So there's one there, assignments assigned by user ID. And that's what we're going to put in there. And I'm going to expand create a task again because, and I'm getting these messages that pop up. I'm going to just do not show again to make my screen less busy. But I'm going to expand the create a task because it collapsed it once we put in the body content. And now at the bottom, I'm going to just go ahead and click save. You've been through this process. And you get your green band, which we can close. And we can click on test in the upper right corner. Do the option button for manually and click test at the bottom. So it's saying to see it work now, assign a task to yourself. What I'm going to have you do is switch back over to Planner. In Planner, assign the send recommendations to stakeholders task to yourself. So I just clicked on it. I'm going to go to assign and assign it to myself. And by the way, if you ever want to get rid of an assignment, you can go back in here and do the X next to whoever it's assigned to. But leave it assigned to you. And we're going to close that dialog. And now you can switch over to your Outlook task list and see if the flow worked. And I can see in my Outlook task list, there's we said for the subject to give it the name of the task, send recommendations to the stakeholder, and the due date is like that date that I chose in December on my system when I was setting up the task. So that flow actually worked. That could be helpful. I mean, think about this. A lot of times people are working and you have Outlook open all day. And you can always look and see what's going on in Outlook. You may not be in Planner all day. You may not be in some of these other apps all day. So this lends itself to further efficiency and automation for you. The next flow that we're going to create, we're going to start by using a template. But before we do that, you need to know a couple of things. The template for this one actually has a problem field in it. And that's one of the reasons why I picked it. The particular template we're going to be using is going to be integrating Planner, Forms, Teams, and Power Automate. So because of the error that you're going to be presented with before we get started in Power Automate, I'm on my Planner screen. I have part of the URL blocked out. And what we need to do, there's a field that we're going to have to address when we're creating the flow, and it's called the plan ID. When you do the drop down, it's not going to show you any plan IDs. So the workaround for that is to grab the plan ID from the URL. So what I need you to do is click up in your URL, make sure it's not selected, press the end key to get to the end of it, and you'll see the text after an ampersand, plan ID equals. You're going to select everything after equals all the way through the end and do Control C to copy it to your clipboard. And then you can go over to your Power Automate screen and be on Create. We're going to scroll down until we get to the Start from a Template section, and we're going to search for this particular template by using part of its name. So we're going to type in the search box, create a task in Planner, and press Enter. And all of the tasks that begin with those words will show up. So the one that we're interested in using is this one. Create a task in Planner from Microsoft Forms and post a message in Teams. So let's go ahead and click on that tile. And once we click on that tile, we're on a somewhat familiar screen. Gives you the name of the template. It shows you the apps that are going to be involved in using this template. And at the bottom of the screen, of course, it will show you what it will connect to. Again, I'm not going to scroll down for privacy reasons, but once you make sure that you're connected to all of those apps, you can go ahead and click the Continue button at the bottom. So now we have our template steps. The first step, from Forms, when a new response is submitted, you're going to choose your Power Automate survey form from the drop-down. And you're going to select the same form in the Get Response Details step from the drop-down. Now we're going to move on to the third step. We're okay with the response ID in the response ID field for Get Response Details. We don't need to make any changes there. The third step is create a task. And so this is where, if you do your drop down, you won't see any of your plans. It's showing Power Audit. Well, now it wants to populate, but sometimes it doesn't. So I could actually select my plan from the list, but if yours is not there, just go ahead and paste in that portion, the plan ID from the URL. And before you paste it in, you have to click on Enter Custom Value, and then you can paste it in and it will stick. Now, if it shows from the list, that's good, but I said that this can be tweaky. Sometimes it doesn't show in the list when you're doing it from a template, but it will do it if you're building the plan from scratch, and it can be the opposite. Sometimes it doesn't show when you're building it from scratch, but it shows when you're using the template. So I want to prepare you for what you would need to do and if it's not working in either scenario. So that is having part of the URL that gives you the plan ID that you can paste in as a custom value. We're going to click in the title field, which is the only other required field for that step of the flow. And we're going to use dynamic content. So we're going to scroll through the dynamic content. And what we can put for the title is the responder's email. That would be okay to put. So I'm going to go ahead and actually, let's put the submission time instead. If you already put responder's email in there, you can do the X to get rid of it and then click on submission time for the title. So now, even if you use the pasting of the plan ID, or if you selected it from the list, it will show you your buckets for bucket ID, right? So this is just saying the bucket to place this task in. Since it's a new task that's going to be created, we're going to put it in the to-do bucket. We're not going to assign a start date or a due date for the task because we don't know what that would be, right? Once the task was created, that will be in there. And then we have for assign user IDs, we have the responder's email is what it's going to put there. Now, if you click in there next to that, you can see all the other dynamic content. We don't need to use anything else, so that'll be okay. And then we have on the left side, post a message. Now, this is the Teams portion of this flow. So we can post it. So you have a drop down there next to post as. We can post it as a user, as a flow bot, or Power Virtual Agents, which is in preview mode, meaning they're testing it out and it may not end up being part of Teams, but you can use it while they're testing it out. We're going to leave it on Flowbot. And when it goes to post in, you're going to do the drop down and you can select whether to post it into a channel, a chat with Flowbot, or a group chat. I'm going to leave it on channel. And then I have to select my team and my channel from the drop down, and you can do the same. And once we have our team and channel in, we can go into the message. So it gives you this default message, new bug added to the bug tracker. And I'm going to select that. And I'm going to use dynamic content over on the right. And what I want to show in the message body is the title of the task. And I might also, no, that's all we need to have in there, just the title of the task. Now you have a terminate branch over here that we don't need to do anything with. So at this point, we can just go to the bottom, and I'm going to click away so that dynamic expression pane collapses, and we can click on save. So we have our flow created. When I go back up to the top, we get our green band. We're going to close the green band, and we're going to click on test. We're going to select manually option button and then test. And I like to go through that process because it tells me exactly what I need to do to test this flow. To see it work now, submit a new response to the selected form. So you're going to navigate to your forms, go into preview mode for your Power Automate survey form, and submit another response to the form. Once you submit your response, you'll get the pop-up, and that's a notification from Teams. So this particular flow, we said create a task in Planner from Forms and post in Teams. So we got the Teams notification already. Let's go take a look at Planner. So it created a task in Planner for me that's sitting there, and it has the date that it was done, that the survey was responded to, the date and time, and that's what we use for the name of the task. So it did the part in Planner. And now the other place, we saw the message pop up if you have your Teams notifications on, but I'm going to switch over to my Teams channel so I can see what's happening in there. So it created the task in Planner and it posted the message in my Teams channel. So there you have it. So that one is I think it's a little bit more intense than the other flows that we use, but sometimes I like to use a flow that I know has an issue so that I can teach you how to overcome that issue if it's a flow that you're interested in using. Now I'm going to take a moment to correct an error I made on the slide when I showed it to you earlier. So this is the slide I showed you for Power Automate integration. We've already done the integration with Forms, Planner, and Teams, and I accidentally left off Project Online when I showed this to you earlier. So I've added it here. Project is a powerful scheduling tool. It's not just used by project managers. It's used across a wide variety of industries, and it can track costs, resources, and time, or any combination of the three when you're managing a project. So it's a pretty powerful application. Of course, it has the desktop version and everything like that. But our next exercise, we're going to be integrating Project Online with Power Automate. And by the way, the slide deck is in the video description for your future reference as well. So now what I'm going to have you do is go ahead and use your app launcher to navigate to Project Online. When you access Project Online, you're in Projects View, which at this point, if you click on Home, it would be the same view, which is my active projects. Now, I made sure I don't have any projects showing in here, so I have a blank palette in here. Couple of things. We do have that left navigation, the site map it's called in here. It can be collapsed, right? You can go and see your recent projects, any pen projects. You can get to your resources, accounts, and contacts. Now, again, this is not a course about project. We're just going to learn enough about it here, if you've never used it before, to create a basic project plan, and then we'll integrate it with Power Automate. When you're in this view, if you have a lot of projects, you have the alphabetical scale at the bottom where you can view certain records that start with a particular letter. You also have a taskbar going across the top where you can do a bunch of different things as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a framework of a project plan, real basic. You're going to learn some tips along the way. So on that taskbar, go ahead and click on New Project, and it opens like a detail screen where you have two tabs, Summary and Task. So on the Summary tab, the first thing we need to do is give our project a name, and let's just call it Sample Project. We're not going to change the calendar template. You're listed as the project manager there. Again, it's not just project managers that use project, but anyone that has to keep track of schedules like this. And we're not really going to change anything over here. We can put in estimates on the right, actually. Let's put in an estimated start date. And what we'll do is we'll use the little calendar icon, and I'm going to put it for like the first week, in my case, of December. We'll start the project on the first Friday in December, just to fill something in here. And then up top on the taskbar, we're going to click on Save. So we save our project. Now we have another tab that popped up related, which has more to do with Power Apps than it does with Project. We're going to go to the Tasks tab. So when you get into the Tasks tab, this is where you can start inputting your tasks. And like I said, we're doing a very spare project plan file, and we're going to just use basic framework of tasks. So I'm going to click Add New Task, and my first task, I'm going to name it Phase 1 and press Enter. My second task under Phase 1 is going to be Task 1, Enter, and we're going to go all the way up to Task 4 under Phase 1. And then after Task 4, we're going to type in Phase 2, Enter. Excuse me, let me get my window reset. And under Phase 2, we're going to have Tasks 1 through 5. So go ahead and type in those tasks. Just generic task and phase names. And now I'm going to go back up to phase 1. Now your phase task, you're not going to assign a duration to. We're going to do something else first, and then we're going to assign durations to our tasks that begin with the word task. So we want to select tasks 1 through 4. Now the thing is here, you would think that you would do the option button in front of task 1, but when you do that in project, it puts a line through the task. It actually marks it complete, and it gives it a duration of 1 day over to the right in the duration column. I'm going to uncheck that option button, and I want to select tasks 1 through 4 under phase 1. So I'm going to click and hold on task 1 and just drag down until those 4 tasks are selected. Now, once they're selected, I can use the more options for any of the selected tasks. And when I do that, I'm going to select Make Subtasks. So when you do that, phase 1 becomes bold and you can collapse it. And phase 1 is now known as a summary task, and tasks 1 through 4 are its subtasks. And then we're going to do the same under phase 2. We're going to click and drag tasks 1 through 5, use more options on any of the selected ones, and make a subtask. That is known as outlining your project plan. We're actually separating it into stages or phases. Phase 1 has 4 tasks. Phase 2 has 5 tasks. And so now we're going to go fill in our durations. We're going to leave task 1 under phase 1 at 1 day. We're going to go to the duration for task 2, and we're going to type 2 days. And when you start typing days, it will automatically populate it. Task 3 will be a 3-day task in duration. Again, just making it very simple. And task 4 will be 4 days. And those are the tasks under phase 1. Under phase 2, task 1 is 2 days. And we're just going to go in ascending order. So task 2 would be 3 days, so on and so forth, until you get them all populated. Now that we have all of our durations populated, I want you to notice the phase tasks. Phase 1 now has a duration of 4 days. So the phases get their information from their subtasks. So the longest task in phase 1 is 4 days. Therefore, the duration of phase 1 is listed at 4 days right now. And the same thing happened with phase 2. So I'm going to scroll to the top, and I'm going to go to a different view. So we're looking at this in grid view. Let's go to board. So board is very similar to what you saw in Planner, where you have buckets and your tasks are showing in different buckets. You can add buckets here, so on and so forth. And we're not going to do that. I'm going to just scroll back to the top. We're going to go to timeline view. So in timeline view, when I click on task 1, and actually before I do that, I'm going to just use the zoom button, drag it backwards, drag the slider backwards, so I can see these bars on the timeline. Now the width of a bar indicates the duration in days, which is what we use for our task. So task 1 has a smaller bar than task 2, then task 3, then task 4. And your summary tasks show like a line that kind of oversees all of its subtasks. So we're going to, in this view, we're going to create relationships between tasks. Relationships really fix when the tasks are going to start on your project calendar. And there are like 4 different relationship types that you can use in project, but the most popular one and the default one if you create relationships in project desktop is finish to start. So for example, in phase 1, when task 1 finishes, task 2 can start. When task 2 finishes, task 3 can start. And we're going to set up those relationships on the timeline. So I'm going to hover over the taskbar on the timeline for task 1. And you see it has a circle in front of it and a circle behind it. The circle behind it, I'm going to kind of put my mouse pointer on. I'm going to grab it. It's kind of hard to do the first time to get it there. Grab that circle, and we're going to drag it to the front of the bar for task 2 underneath it. Oops, I'm doing everything but what I'm supposed to be doing. So if I grab the circle on the right of it, now I'm moving it around. I can drag it so it goes into the circle in front of the bar underneath it. So notice how it moved task 2 over a little bit on the schedule, right? And you can see the dates up here at the top. So task 2 is moved over a little bit because it can't start until task 1 is finished. We're going to do the same thing with task 2. We're going to go to the circle behind it, after it, and drag that circle into the circle in front of task 3. Do the same between task 3 and task 4. And then I'm going to just zoom a little bit more, use my zoom slider because it's taking me across in the timeline there. And I'm going to go down and we're going to do the same relationships in phase 2, starting with task 1. When that one finishes, task 2 can start, so on and so forth, until you get them all related. I have to keep scrolling over here. Oops, that one didn't quite get in a circle. There it is. And then I have this last one from task 4 to task 5. Now, relationships can be created between your summary tasks too. So in other words, it's like you're saying, when phase 1 is finished, then phase 2 can start. So I'm going to hover over the phase 1 line on the timeline and click that last circle, the circle that's after it. And I'm going to drag that all the way down to the beginning of the phase 2 summary task. So when one phase is finished, the next one can start. Now, if I go back to my summary tab, right? It's still showing, it's just the estimated start date. Nothing has updated in here because we haven't done any work on the project. We can look back at our task tab. It's still in timeline view. We can go to the grid again if we want to and just look at it. And now because we did the relationships, notice the duration of phase 1 is 10 days and the duration of phase 2 is 20 days. Because of the relationships, we have to wait for one task to finish before another one starts. So that increases the duration that was there before. So basically, we've got our project plan file set up. And what we can do then is go on and do a flow for it in Power Automate. When we accessed project through Power Apps, we have the ability of creating flows from within Power Apps. If we open this project in Microsoft Project Online, we won't have a direct connection to create the flow. So we're going to create a flow from in here. I'm going to just select in a blank area of task 1 under phase 1 so I don't mark it complete. And I'm going to go up to more commands for project on that taskbar at the upper part of your screen. And I'm going to click on flow and then select create a flow. So it brings you back over to Power Automate and it automatically brings you to a flow Microsoft Dataverse button. So the Microsoft Dataverse, in case you're not familiar with it, it securely stores and manages data used by business applications. One part of that data would be your project data that's stored through Power Apps. And so Just like any other template that we've used, you're going to scroll to the bottom and make sure you're connected to the Microsoft Dataverse. You should be able to sign in if you're not already signed in, and you have your green check mark. So that means you're going to go ahead and click your continue button. We have one step when a record is selected, and for your environment, you're going to leave it on default. And that would speak to the project environment we were in when we started this flow. And then everything in Microsoft Dataverse is stored in tables. So the table name is appropriate here. We're going to leave it on projects. And so we're going to end up clicking the new step button. So what do we want to happen when a record is selected here? In search connectors and actions, we're going to type Outlook. And we're going to choose send email V2. So I'm actually going to type that in, send email, so I don't have to scroll through the list. Send an email V2. And that's the step that I want. So I'm going to have the email sent to myself. I'm going to click in the subject line. And so we have all of this information that shows up in dynamic content, right? So we can choose for the subject line, let's put the project manager assigned to the project. And then in the body of the email, we'll put in, let's see. Let's choose the name of the custom entity there, and we'll see what that looks like in an email. But the bigger point here is that when we accessed it from within Power Apps project, the only choice was to use the Microsoft Dataverse button. We're going to go ahead and save. So the next step is going to be a little different for you as well. So far, we've been testing our flows. We've been closing the green band, and we're going to do that here. And we're going to go to test. And it's going to let us know that the flow cannot be triggered manually for testing. So because it requires us to go in and select a record in the Dataverse, we're going to go ahead and cancel that test flow. And we're going to switch back over to Power Apps where our project is open. So you already know when you're working in cloud-based apps that sometimes they're just sitting there and they're static. So we created that flow. And what we need to do, especially when we're doing project within Power Apps, is you need to refresh your screen. So I'm going to just press F5 to refresh my screen. And it takes me back to summary, and I'm going to navigate back to the tasks tab. Now, the reason why we did that, if we didn't do it, when we go to access the flow, the new flow, the Dataverse flow that we created won't show in the list of flows. So now that we've refreshed, we should be good. All we need to do is reselect task 1 under phase 1 without marking it complete. We're going to go up to more commands for project. Click on Flow, and now you'll see under Run your Microsoft Dataverse button. And you're going to go ahead and click on that. The dialog opens, and we're running the flow called Microsoft Dataverse button. It's owned by you. Create one or more actions to happen when records in the Dataverse portal are selected. And you can look at more information there. So we're already signed in to Dataverse, right? And we already are signed into Outlook. So we're going to just click Continue. And now we're going to click on Run Flow. So it ran successfully. We need to check it out, make sure it really happened. So when I look at my email, I got the email Now, we could have probably picked something better, a different field, or hand type something in for the subject, but it has the name of our project in the body. So just a way to introduce you to Microsoft Dataverse and how you access it from within Project within Power Apps. The last integration we're going to perform is going to be between Power Apps and Power Automate. So we're going to end up creating an app. And before we get into that, just want to give you a little bit more definition. There are two types of apps that you can create in Power Apps. Canvas apps, which are task-specific apps, and model-driven apps, which are component-focused, and they're used to implement an end-to-end business process. We're going to end up creating a model-driven app at some point in this exercise. But first, we need to go to our SharePoint site so that we can create two lists. Go ahead and navigate to SharePoint. So the end result of this exercise is we're going to be able to use the app that we create in Power Apps to populate some of the fields in one of these SharePoint lists. So we're going to start by creating two different lists in SharePoint. On the left navigation panel, you're going to click on Site Contents. And then at the top, you're going to click on New and select List. We're going to create a list from a blank list, so go ahead and make that choice. Now the first list, we're going to just name Repair Shop. We don't have to put a description in. We do want it to show on that left nav, which is the site navigation, so we're going to leave that checked, and we're going to click Create. Once we have that list created, we have to tell it what columns we want. So we're going to keep the title column, and we want to add one more column to this list. So I'm going to click on that Add Column button, and we have to click on the type of answer, the type of choices they'll have in that column. So this column is going to be Contact Email. We're going to make it a single line of text column. We're going to name it Contact Email. We don't need a description. We're not going to put in a default or a calculated value. So we can just click on Save at the bottom. And our lists refresh, and we have those two fields on them. Now, let's go back. We'll come back to this list and populate it manually in just a little bit. But for right now, we're going to go back to Site Contents. And we're going to do the New button again and choose List again. This one is also going to be from a blank list, so go ahead and select that one. And this one we're going to call Asset Type. Again, no description. Go ahead and click Create. So you should see both the Asset Type and Repair Shop list in your site navigation area over on the left. Now with Asset Type, we need to add some columns. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave the title column the way it is. We're going to go to Add Column. And this type of column that we're going to add is going to be a choice column. We're going to name it Asset Type. No description. Underneath where it says Type Choice and you have your choices, you're going to click on Choice 1 and you're going to type Desktop. Choice 2, Laptop. And Choice 3, Mobile. So we'll have three choices. We're good with the colors here. If you had more choices, you could add more. You could change the colors if you want to. But the point of this is not so much SharePoint, it's more Power Automate. And so we're not going to allow them to add any manual values. So they're forced to pick from one of the three choices that we put in. We're not going to populate a default choice. we're going to just go down to the bottom and choose Save. So we have our title and asset type columns that let us know that the asset type column is done. And we're going to add one more column. And so click on Add Column. And all the way down at the bottom, you're going to click on More. It's not showing you all the column types in that view. So the type that we want is a lookup column. So I'm going to go ahead and select the type first, and then it's still waiting for me to give it a column name. And the column name that we're going to use here is Repair Shop. And what it's going to do is it's going to look up the email address from the Repair Shop list. So as we scroll down, we get the additional column settings. We don't need a description. We're not requiring that the column contains any information at this point. And where it says get information from, we're going to do the drop down there, and we're going to select Repair Shop, the first list that we created. If you get this sorry something went wrong, just go back to your site. And I'm going to go back to my asset type list using that navigation area on the left. This is something that can typically happen in SharePoint on occasion, where you're trying to do something and it just times out on you. So I have the title and the asset type. I'm going to try to add the Repair Shop lookup column again. So I'm going to go back to Add Column, More. I'm going to name it Repair Shop, and I'm going to make it a lookup column. And now once my screen updates, I will scroll down and we'll try this again. So we're going to get the information from the Repair Shop list, and it updated. And then in this column, we're going to do the drop down where it says ID, and we're going to select Contact Email. So I could have been moving too quickly before. You notice after I selected Get Information From, it kind of had to refresh the screen, and that could have caused the error. Sometimes I move too fast, and I am the cause. And so that's all we need to do for that column. We're going to go to the bottom, and we're going to click OK. And I'm going to go ahead and refresh my screen by pressing F5. And now I'm able to see that Repair Shop column for our asset type list. So we've got these two lists created. And now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to populate a couple of entries in the Repair Shop list. So I'm going to use the site navigation, and I'm going to go to the Repair Shop list, and I'm going to edit the list in grid view. If you want to do multiple entries, that's a good way to do it. So I'm going to put it in grid view. And for the Repair Shop, let's see, what kind of entries do I want to put here? So just a couple of contacts. I'm going to put in a title. For the first title, I'm going to just put in Mr. Well, actually, I'll just put in Mickey Mouse. Could have renamed the field to name. That's okay. We'll leave it title, Mickey Mouse. And I'm going to make up an email address, mickey@any.com. And then I'm going to go down and add another new item, and I use my tab key. We'll put in Donald Duck. And the email is going to be donald@any.com, just to populate that list manually. Once we have the list populated, you're going to go up to the taskbar and you're going to click on Exit Grid View. So you see your entries in your regular view for that particular list. Our next step here is to create a flow from within Power Apps. So let's navigate to Power Apps. And make sure you're on home, the home screen. And if you look at that left menu, you're going to go ahead and click on flows. It may take a moment to populate. And all the way at the top, we're going to click on New Flow. And we're going to do an instant cloud flow. So we get our Build an Instant Cloud Flow dialog. And on the right side, we're going to go ahead and put in a flow name. And I'm going to just call it In App. How to trigger this flow, I'm going to select Power Apps. And then at the bottom, you're going to go ahead and click Create. So it gives you the one step, the one action, which is Power Apps, which is going to be the trigger actually, and no additional information is needed for that step. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on New Step. And once it loads, we're going to use the search box to search for SharePoint. And once it pops up, I'm going to go ahead and click on it. So I'm just seeing the SharePoint actions. And we want to find an action that says create an item. So we're going to choose the create item action. And it brings us to the create item box. And we have to put in the site address for our SharePoint site. They have an example there. And then once you have the site address in, you can grab the list names from that site. In this case, you don't have to navigate to SharePoint to copy the URL. You can just access it from the drop-down. So go ahead and access your SharePoint site address from the drop-down. And then for the list name, we're going to want to choose the assets list that we just created. Actually, it's called asset type. I misspoke. Now that we have our site address and our list name selected, we get 3 more fields that show up. The title field, which is required, and then asset type value and repair shop ID. So for the title, we're going to click in there. And we're going to use the dynamic content, and it says Ask in Power Apps. This time it shows up right underneath the title field. So I'm going to click in Ask in Power Apps, and that creates, when you do that, it creates the item title. It inserts that into the title field. For asset type value, you can click in there and you see the choices, and you could choose one of whatever you want to choose for asset type value. And then for repair shop ID, you can see that that's mapped to the email addresses that we put in the repair shop list. So I'm going to just select Donald off of there. And at this point, we're done with this flow. We still have another step to do, but we're done with the flow. So at the bottom, you're going to go ahead and click Save. So now we're going to build our Power App. In Power Apps on the left nav, you're going to go ahead and click on Home, just so you can get to the main screen. And you can see right here, you have, and I decided now that I said we were going to do a model-driven app from blank. We're actually going to do a Canvas app from blank. So let's go ahead under Make Your Own App, and you're going to choose Canvas app from blank. And so we're going to name the app. We're going to just call it App with Flow. And we're going to format it. We can format it here for a tablet or a phone. I'm going to go ahead and leave it on tablet and click the Create button at the bottom. So it's getting things ready for us. You're getting welcome to the Power App Studio. We can go ahead and skip that opening message. And just to get you acclimated in here a little bit, right? You have your menu bar at the top. You kind of have some icons, like your fonts and stuff like that right underneath it. On the left side, you have this menu that you can expand. So tree view, insert data, media, advanced tools. You are in tree view. This area is known as your canvas, the area in the center of the screen. And that's where you're going to be building your app from. And then on the right, you can access properties for whatever you're building. So when you come in here, it gives you the canvas. It's a blank canvas. We have screen 1. We have it in the middle. And if you look at the bottom, it lets you know that you're working on screen 1. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time going through Power Apps for you. That's a whole separate course in itself. But we're going to just go through the steps to create this Canvas app. So what we're going to do is on the left-hand side, and we don't have to expand it, we can just do the plus sign to insert. And we get a list of items that can be inserted. And the thing that we're going to select is a text input. So go ahead and click on text input. It says, please wait. And you'll notice that it put the item on your canvas, and it's also showing the properties on the right for that particular item. So we added one item for our app so far. We're going to go back on the left. Now, what I did is I deselected that text input box that we just added. And I'm going to go back on the left under Insert. And this time, I'm going to select Button. So now it places a button on the canvas. And I'm going to move that button down just by grabbing it and dragging it. So it's underneath the text input. And you notice as you're moving it, now this is starting to show in a lot of different applications. As you move it around, you get that little purple guideline. So I know that these two items are left aligned with each other. And I just clicked on a blank area of the canvas so nothing is selected. And again, that canvas is representing one screen. Now we're going to go up to the menu and we're going to click on the action menu. And what we're going to do is we're going to, on that action menu, you're going to go ahead and click on Power Automate. And so you have flows associated with screen 1. In-app, and there's one called In-app 2. I'm going to just click on In-app. That's what we named our flow. And it's adding it to this particular app that we're developing. Okay. So now it gives us a yellow band that says complete the flow's parameters in the formula bar. So if we look up, we have a formula bar very similar to Excel. And it currently says in-app.run. And we need to do some things. So first of all, what we're going to do is, now before we modify what's in the formula bar, I just want to show you something else that'll help you keep better track of what's going on. Over on the right in the properties window, you're going to click on advanced, and you'll see that that in-app.run, the beginning of that formula, is set as an action on the onVisible property. So we just want to get rid of that formula. I'm going to go up to the formula bar and I'm going to delete it. And our warning disappeared that we had. That red X that we had there disappeared. So there was a problem with that. We didn't need that one there, so we removed it. Now we're going to click and select our text input control. And so we're going to change. So if you look up, if we look over here in advanced, right, we're searching for a property. So the default property for data is text input. And we can change it in the formula bar. You could also change it over in the properties window, whichever way you want it to be. And what we're going to do is we're going to keep the double quotes. So when you're using a text data type, it has to be in double quotes. We're going to keep the double quotes, but we're going to call it something different. And that something is enter asset title. That's what we want it to say. Enter asset title. And again, you have to keep the double quotes there. So once we have that done, we can see that it changed over here on advanced for your properties. We're going to go ahead and select the button, and we want to change the text for the button from button, and we want it to say create asset. So once I select the button, I'm going to do that over here. I could just double click it and it keeps the quotes there. And I'm going to just type create asset. Oops, you don't want to press enter there because it will give you another line in that same text box. And when you type that, you'll see that that's the text that now shows on the button, right? And the text that shows in that text box that we put there now says enter asset title. So we just wanted to make it clearer for when the apps is being used. We have one other property we want to change for the button. So I'm going to select the button on the canvas again. And in the properties pane on the right, I'm still in advanced, and under action, I see the on select property. And that is the property that we want to modify by using a formula. So where it says false, actually I can do it in the formula bar. It doesn't really matter. But I'm going to go up here to the formula bar and I'm going to select false and I'm going to change it. It's going to say, so the name of our flow is in app. So we're going to start by typing in app. And then we'll see a drop down list occur. And we're going to select off of that list inapp.run. And then it gives us right above that, and this is similar to Excel in the formula bar, but it would be underneath it. You'll see the syntax of that run function. And what it's looking for as an argument, create item title, is what it's looking for. So what we're going to type in there is text input, and once you start typing it, you'll see text input 1 show up on the list. You're going to select it. Text input 1, you're going to type a period and then the word text. And you want to close the parenthesis at the end of it. So with the button selected, we're impacting the on select property over here under advanced, and we're swapping it out to the function that says inapp.run and then in parentheses text input 1.text. And you might be saying to yourself, well, what does that mean? Basically, what it's doing here is it's telling the flow to execute. That's the .run part. And text input 1 is going to be added to the canvas with the value entered into the text box. So in other words, when the flow runs, the app is going to run the flow with the value from the text input control, and it's going to pass the value to the flow to execute. The flow will create a SharePoint list item with this value in it. So that's what's going to end up happening here as the end result. We just needed to put in just a couple of formulas and change some properties once we added our controls to the canvas. So everything you select under insert is known as a control. So we have a text input control and we have a button control on our canvas. Now what we need to do is save our app. If we try to navigate from this page without saving, so for example, if we click the back button, it will let us know that we have unsaved changes and ask us if we would like to save our progress. Or we could have gone to File and done a save. We're going to go ahead and select Save on that pop-up. So we have our Save As options. We're going to save it to Power Apps. It's App with Flow, right? And so it just lists any other apps you may have in here, as well as component libraries. We're going to go ahead and click the Save button. And it lets you know the date and time that it was saved, that all changes are saved. Now we could share our app from the screen, look at versions. We're going to do the back arrow at the top left. And then we're going to go to the File tab. Oops, that's not where I wanted to go. Sorry. So we're going to go to back arrow again. So if you find yourself getting stuck in a loop, you can always relaunch the application, which is what I did. It was just having me go from File menu back and forth into the app. So when I get back in it, I'm back on the Home tab, and on the left side, I can click on Apps, and I can find my app with Flow there. And I can just click on it. And it's going to run the flow, right? So the flow is showing us the app so that we can input information in our app and it flows to our SharePoint site. So we'll see how that works once we get this in. And I can get rid of this little privacy window up here. I don't need it anymore on this screen. So enter the asset title. I'm going to click in there. And what I want to put in there is desktop with 24-inch monitor. And I'll get rid of that default text. So I'm typing in desktop with 24-inch monitor, and then I'm going to go ahead and click on the Create Asset button. So what should happen is that when we go back over to SharePoint, and we go back over to that list, we should see this entry. Let's check it out. And voila, I'm in my asset type list in SharePoint, and there is the desktop with 24-inch monitor. And it gave me the asset type of desktop, and the repair shop is mickey@any.com, because those are the items that I selected when we were creating the flow. So we created a Power App, we created a flow from within Power App, and it gave us the ability to use our Power App to input stuff that goes to our SharePoint site. So as we've been going through this course, we've spent time testing our flows, and we've actually looked at some flow details in terms of when the flow has run in the past 28 days, so on and so forth. Now we're going to get into a deeper dive on the analytics in our flows. So the last lesson in this course is monitoring flow statistics and metrics. And we're going to do it. So I'm already back in Power Automate on the My Flows screen. And what I'd like to do is select the flow, the forms flow that says when a new response is submitted, get response details, send an email. We're going to just click on that. And it takes us to that screen where we're seeing the details, the connections, the owners, the 28-day run history, so on and so forth. What we haven't yet taken a look at, we're going to access from this bar up top. So over toward the right side of the bar, you'll see an analytics icon. Go ahead and give it a click. Now, for this course, when we view the analytics, we're not going to see a lot of information because we just created these flows, used them during the course and everything. But this will give you an idea of some of the information that's available to you. So when you get in here, it's on the Actions tab, and it's supposed to be showing the total action requests by day. But again, brand new flow, don't have any real data stored in here. You could change the range. It defaults to the last 30 days. You could look at the last 14 or the last 7. But in a situation like this, we're just not going to have any data that's populating at this time. We're going to go to the Usage tab, and we'll wait till it loads. But we're going to be in a similar situation here. It will bring up the graphs that they're using. So total runs by day, and then you have the number of flow runs and the flow runs trend. And those would be visuals that you could look at. And again, you can change the range if necessary. And then you have an errors tab, and it will break down the errors by day, by type, the error details, if any. We don't have any data available for this particular flow. I'm going to just stop for a minute and see if I can find a flow that might have some more data in it that would be good for you to see. So I just brought up a flow that I created a little while ago. Did not use it a lot. It wasn't created during this course prior to this video. So it has just a bit more information that we can see. There's also kind of like a lag time. So total action requests by day is showing here. If I go to the Usage tab, I get just a bit more population than the ones that we created during this course. So the total runs by day, the number of runs, and then we have a flow runs trend, which highlights the successful runs, that kind of thing. And then we have an errors tab at the top, and this one didn't have any errors, so it's going to be just as blank as the other flow that we were on when we were looking at the analytics for errors. But you can get an idea of the information that's being captured for all of your flows in Power Automate that might be useful for you. Now, another way to look at some statistical data about your flows is over here on the menu. We're going to expand Monitor, and then we're going to click on Cloud Flow Activity. And that brings you to a different screen. So this is basically going back. It's showing you today, it's showing you yesterday, keeps going back, older, so on and so forth. Today, yesterday, and older are those categories. And it's showing you the flows that have run, the Cloud Flow Activity. So up at the top, you can search the recent activity. You can look at all the activity, which is the default. You can just look at notifications. And so some of this is push notifications that were sent to our mobile device. And you can look at failures. So you can see when flows failed. So just another way of getting some more statistical information about your flows. So I really appreciate your attention. This course, it got tedious at points, I will admit. It's not easy to go into a lot of different apps that you may or may not have used before and be able to keep up. The benefit of a video course is you can always pause the video, you can always rewind the video, and you also, can practice on your own after the course is over. So I'd like to just take this moment to thank everybody for attending Power Automate, and I hope you've gotten some useful insights from the course. Thank you again for your attention. Before reviewing what was covered in this course, I'd like to say I hope you've seen enough of Power Automate to whet your appetite. Please go in, explore its features on your own, and find uses that are more specific to your particular workflow needs. We extended our Power Automate integration by using Forms, Planner, and Teams connectors. We also accessed Project Online via Power Apps and created a flow from there. Remember, you can't start a flow from within Project Online itself, only when it's accessed via Power Apps. Our last integration was directly with Power Apps, where we created an app that can be used to populate a SharePoint list. You were also introduced to the Power Apps mobile app during this section. We activated and tested each flow as we created them, and we learned how to monitor flow metrics and activities. Thank you for viewing this video.